A billionaire's empire collapsed because he trusted the wrong woman, but the waitress he humiliated became the only one who could save him. That freezing November night in Manhattan, nobody expected the quiet woman serving champagne to destroy a corporate conspiracy with nothing but her mind. While power players schemed in $1,000 suits, Lena Harper wore a wrinkled apron and carried secrets that would shake Wall Street to its foundation. This is her story. Stay until the end, like this video, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this journey goes. The crystal chandeliers of Le Bernardin cast shadows across white tablecloths like fractured diamonds. Adrian Vale sat rigid in his chair, watching his fiancée's perfectly manicured hand rest possessively on his forearm. The restaurant hummed with the quiet wealth of Manhattan's elite, the soft clink of silverware, hushed conversations in multiple languages, the occasional burst of restrained laughter. He hated every second of it. "Darling, you're not listening again." Margot's voice had that edge he'd learned to recognize. Sweet on the surface, venom underneath. Adrian forced his attention back to her. "I'm listening." "Then what did I just say about the Monaco trip?" He hadn't heard a word. His mind was 3 blocks away in his office, where the German merger documents sat waiting, each page a potential landmine he didn't have time to properly examine. His legal team assured him everything was clean. He didn't believe them. "You said we should extend it to 2 weeks, he lied smoothly. Margot's smile sharpened. "I said 3. But it's fine. I know you're distracted." Her fingers tightened on his arm. "You're always distracted." The accusation hung between them like smoke. She wasn't wrong. Since Elena died 4 years ago, Adrian had built walls so high even his own son couldn't climb them most days. Work was safe. Numbers made sense. People didn't. Especially people like Margot Ashford. He'd proposed to her 6 weeks ago in a moment of weakness, or maybe exhaustion. She was beautiful, sophisticated, from the right family. His board approved. His investors approved. His mother-in-law approved, which was perhaps the most disturbing part. His 7-year-old son Max tolerated her, barely. And Adrian? Adrian felt nothing, which seemed appropriate for a man who'd forgotten how to feel much of anything beyond the dull ache of going through motions. "Excuse me." The voice was so soft, Adrian almost missed it. He looked up to find their server standing 3 feet away, notepad clutched against her chest like a shield. She was small, mid-30s maybe, with dark hair pulled back in a simple knot. Her uniform was clean but worn, the fabric thin in places from too many washes. She kept her eyes down. "We're ready to order," Margot announced without looking at her. "Of course." The waitress's pen hovered over the pad. "What would you like?" Margot lifted the leather-bound menu, squinting at it dramatically. "This is ridiculous. Why is everything in French?" "It's a French restaurant," Adrian said quietly. "Well, I can't read French." Margot thrust the menu toward the waitress. "You. What's this one?" The waitress leaned in slightly. "The bouillabaisse marseillaise. It's a traditional seafood stew with— I didn't ask for the history. Just tell me what's in it." A faint color rose in the waitress's cheeks. Fresh lobster, sea bass, mussels, clams, saffron broth. "Too heavy. Next one." Adrian watched the exchange with growing discomfort. The waitress explained 3 more dishes, her voice getting quieter with each one. Margot rejected them all with increasing irritation. "This is absurd," Margot finally snapped. "How is anyone supposed to order when nothing makes sense?" "The menu has English descriptions underneath," the waitress started. "Are you suggesting I can't read?" Margot's voice rose enough that nearby tables glanced over. "No, ma'am, I just meant— What's your name?" The waitress hesitated. "Lena." "Lena." Margot said it like an insult. "Tell me, Lena, did you finish high school? Or did you skip straight to this?" She gestured vaguely at the woman's uniform. Adrian felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Margot, that's enough." "I'm serious, darling. I want to know if our server is even literate." Margot's eyes glittered with something ugly. "Because if she can't help me understand a simple menu, what exactly is she qualified to do?" The restaurant had gone quiet. Adrian could feel eyes on them. Other diners, staff members frozen in place, the maitre d' starting to move their direction. Lena stood very still, her face carefully blank, but her knuckles had gone white around the notepad. "Actually," Lena said softly, "I can help you." Oh? Margot leaned back with theatrical interest. Please, enlighten me. The menu isn't difficult if you understand the language structure. French culinary terms follow specific patterns. For example, Marseillaise indicates origin, Marseille. Provençal means Provence-style preparation. The confusion might be because you're trying to read it like English instead of recognizing the Latin roots that, Are you lecturing me? Margot's voice could have cut glass. No, ma'am. You asked if I was literate. I'm just demonstrating that I am. Adrian blinked. The words were polite, the tone respectful, but underneath was pure steel. Margot's face flushed dark red. How dare you speak to me that way? Do you have any idea who I am? Who he is? She jabbed a finger toward Adrian. One word from me and you'll be fired before dessert. Margot. Adrian's voice came out harder than he intended. Stop. Don't defend her. This little nobody just insulted me in front of... She didn't insult you. She answered your question. By implying I'm stupid, you implied she was illiterate. She proved otherwise. Margot's mouth opened and closed. Around them, Adrian could hear whispers starting, phones discreetly appearing. This was going to be online within minutes. Billionaire's fiancé humiliates waitress. The headlines wrote themselves. I want her fired, Margot hissed. Now. Lena had gone very pale, but she hadn't moved. Her eyes met Adrian's for half a second, dark brown, intelligent, utterly exhausted, before dropping back to the floor. Something shifted in Adrian's chest. He didn't know this woman, didn't owe her anything, should probably just smooth this over and move on with his evening. Instead, he stood up. We're leaving, he told Margot. What? I'll pay for our drinks. We're done here. Adrian, sit down. You're being ridiculous. No. He pulled his wallet out, extracting several $100 bills and setting them on the table. His briefcase sat beside his chair. He reached for it and stopped. The latch was open. He always locked his briefcase. Always. It contained confidential documents, merger details, personal information he didn't leave exposed. Someone had opened it. Adrian's eyes snapped to Lena, who was already backing away. I'm sorry for the disruption. I'll get someone else to... Wait. She froze. Adrian crouched down, examining the case. Nothing appeared missing, but the papers were slightly askew. And there, tucked between the merger documents and his calendar, was something that didn't belong. His prenuptial agreement with Margot. He'd had his lawyers draft it 3 weeks ago. Margot didn't know it existed yet. He'd planned to present it tomorrow morning, let her review it with her own legal team before they set a wedding date. The document was closed, but a single page had been marked with a folded corner. Section 12.3. The Scandal Clause. Adrian pulled the paper out slowly, his mind racing. The section was buried deep in the contract, page 47 of 60. It stipulated that if either party caused public embarrassment or scandal prior to marriage, the prenuptial terms would be voided and the offending party would receive nothing. $0, 0 assets, 0 claim to his fortune. Someone had marked it. Someone had understood exactly what was happening tonight. Someone had left him a message. He looked up at Lena, who was staring very deliberately at the wall 3 feet to his left. Did you touch my briefcase? He asked quietly. Every head in the restaurant swiveled toward them. Lena's throat worked. Your case was open when I served your drinks, sir. I noticed confidential documents visible. I closed it to protect your privacy. And while you were closing it, you happened to read page 47 of a 60-page legal contract? Silence. Answer him, Margot shrieked. This is theft, corporate espionage. I'm calling the police. Please don't. Lena's voice had dropped to barely a whisper. I didn't steal anything. I saw the heading and I thought, You thought what? Adrian stood up, the prenup in his hand. Lena finally met his eyes. I thought you should know what was in your own briefcase before tomorrow morning. The restaurant had gone completely still. Even the kitchen noise had stopped. Adrian stared at this small, quiet woman who'd just done something absolutely insane. She'd read confidential legal documents, marked a specific clause, left it for him to find. She'd protected him from the woman he was planning to marry. Adrian, what is that paper? Margot's voice had changed. The theatrical anger was gone, replaced by something sharp and cold. He didn't answer her. He was too busy rereading Section 12.3, understanding finally what Lena had seen. If Margot caused a public scandal, she lost everything. And 5 minutes ago, she'd publicly humiliated a waitress in front of a restaurant full of witnesses with their phones out. "Oh my God," Margot breathed. She'd gone white. "Adrian, whatever you're thinking—" "How did you know?" Adrian asked Lena. "Know what?" "That I had a prenup, that there was a scandal clause, that she—" He gestured at Margot without looking at her. "That this would happen tonight." Lena shook her head. "I didn't know anything would happen. I just saw the document when I served your drinks." The case was open and the heading was visible in German. Ehevertrag mit Strafklauseln. Prenuptial agreement with penalty clauses. I read German, so I understood what it was. And then I saw how she was treating people. The coat check girl, the busboy, me, and I thought... She trailed off. "You thought I should be aware of my own contract before she did something that would trigger it. I thought you should have all the information you needed to make good decisions, sir." Adrian laughed. He couldn't help it. The sound came out harsh and bitter. "You read German?" "Yes, sir." "How many languages do you speak?" "6 fluently, another 4 conversationally." "And you're a waitress." Something flickered across her face. Pride, maybe. Or defiance. "I'm a lot of things, sir, but right now, yes. I'm a waitress who should probably get back to work." "You're fired." Margot was on her feet now, shaking. "Adrian, tell them to fire her immediately. She violated your privacy. She stole confidential information." "She protected confidential information," Adrian corrected, "from being seen by half the restaurant when my case was left open." He looked at the maitre d', who was hovering nervously nearby. "Who served our drinks initially?" "I did, sir," the man admitted. "I set them down while you were taking a phone call. I may have brushed against your briefcase. I apologize if—" "No apology necessary." Adrian turned back to Lena. "You saw the case open, saw confidential documents visible, and closed it to protect my privacy. Then you marked a clause you thought I should be aware of before making important decisions. Is that accurate?" Lena nodded mutely. "That's corporate espionage," Margot shrieked. "No," Adrian said calmly. "That's good judgment." He pulled out his phone and typed quickly. Within seconds, his head of security responded. The cameras in the restaurant would show exactly what happened. Lena closing the case. Margot creating a public scene. Everything documented. Everything that would hold up in court if needed. "We're done," he told Margot. "The engagement, the wedding, all of it." Her face went from white to crimson. "You're breaking up with me because of this nobody? This minimum wage servant who—" "I'm breaking up with you because you just proved exactly who you are. And Section 12.3 of the prenuptial agreement you were supposed to sign tomorrow means you walk away with nothing." Margot's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You can't. Adrian, please. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." He felt tired suddenly, bone-deep tired. "You meant every word. You just didn't know it would cost you." He turned to Lena, who looked like she wanted to dissolve into the floor. "How much do you make here?" She blinked. What?" "Annual salary." "How much?" "I don't think that's—" "Roughly." She swallowed. "Maybe 30,000. With tips." Adrian pulled out his checkbook. He was probably the last person under 60 who still carried one, and wrote quickly. He tore off the check and held it out. Lena stared at it without moving. "I can't accept that. It's $20,000 for your discretion tonight and your service to my privacy. That's too much for closing a briefcase. Then consider it payment for teaching my ex-fiancé some manners." A startled laugh escaped Lena before she could stop it. She clapped her hand over her mouth, eyes wide. Adrian smiled. He couldn't remember the last time he'd made someone laugh. "Take the check, please." Slowly, hesitantly, Lena reached out and took it. Her fingers were shaking. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Adrian picked up his briefcase, locked it properly this time, and gestured toward the door. "Walk with me." "Sir, I'm working." "Not anymore. You just quit." "I definitely did not—" "You're about to." Adrian looked at the maitre d'. "She's leaving with me. Whatever she earns in a month, I'll triple it and send it to the restaurant as compensation for losing her mid-shift. Good enough?" The maitre d' looked between Adrian's face and Lena's shocked expression. Of course, Mr. Vale, whatever you wish. Excellent. Adrian started toward the exit, then paused. Margot, lose my number. He didn't wait to hear her response. Just walked out into the freezing November night with a waitress who spoke 6 languages and had somehow seen through his entire life in less than 30 seconds. Behind him, he could hear Margot screaming, cameras clicking, chaos erupting. Ahead of him, Lena Harper stood on the sidewalk looking lost and terrified, clutching a $20,000 check like it might explode. Mr. Vale, I don't understand what's happening. Neither do I, Adrian admitted. But I have a proposal for you. A proposal. A business proposal. Come to my office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I have a shift at the diner. Call in sick. I can't just... Miss Harper. Adrian met her eyes. You speak 6 languages. You identified a German legal document in the 3 seconds it took you to serve drinks. You understood complex prenuptial terminology and had the intelligence and the courage to warn someone you've never met about a problem they didn't know they had. Lena shook her head. I just saw words that didn't belong. No, you saw a pattern. You analyzed it. You acted on it. Those are skills I need. For what? Adrian pulled out a business card and handed it to her. I'm finalizing a merger with a German industrial company. $3 billion. The contracts are in German and English. My legal team says everything's perfect, but something feels wrong, and I don't know what. Lena stared at the card. You want me to review corporate merger documents. I want you to look at them the same way you looked at my prenup, fresh eyes, no assumptions. Just tell me if you see anything that doesn't belong. Mr. Vale, I'm not a lawyer. I have 20 lawyers. What I don't have is someone who thinks the way you do. A cab pulled up to the curb and Adrian opened the door. 9 a.m. My office. If you say no, I'll pay you for your time anyway, but I hope you'll say yes. Lena clutched the check tighter. Why are you doing this? Because you saved me from making a catastrophic mistake tonight, and I think you might save me from making another one tomorrow. He smiled slightly. Also, because I'm curious. About what? About how a woman who speaks 6 languages and reads German legal documents ended up serving tables at a French restaurant. Color flooded Lena's cheeks. That's a long story. Then you'll have to tell me tomorrow. Adrian gestured to the cab. Where do you live? I'll make sure you get home safely. Queens. But I can take the subway. Humor me. I just blew up my engagement and walked out on a $500 dinner reservation. Let me do one decent thing tonight. Lena hesitated, then climbed into the cab. She gave an address in Astoria. Adrian handed the driver $300. Make sure she gets home. Keep the change. The driver's eyes went wide. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Adrian stepped back from the cab. Through the window, Lena was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Confusion. Suspicion. Maybe a little hope. Tomorrow, he reminded her. 9 a.m. She nodded slowly. The cab pulled away, disappearing into the rivers of Manhattan traffic. Adrian stood on the sidewalk outside Le Bernardin, watching his breath fog in the November cold. Inside, Margot was probably still screaming. His phone was already buzzing with texts. His lawyers, his PR team, his mother-in-law, his business partners. Everyone wanting to know what had happened, why he'd walked out, who the waitress was. He ignored them all. Instead, he thought about dark brown eyes that had seen too much, a soft voice that had more steel in it than most boardrooms, and a woman who'd risked her job to warn a stranger about danger. His instincts told him Lena Harper was going to change everything. He just didn't know how yet. The apartment in Astoria was exactly what Lena expected after a 12-hour shift, cold, dark, and smelling faintly of the takeout containers she'd forgotten to throw away 3 days ago. She locked the door behind her, set down her purse, and stared at the check in her hand. $20,000. She'd made $23,000 all of last year. This was insane. All of it. The confrontation with Margot, the briefcase, the offer, the cab ride that probably cost more than her weekly groceries. Adrian Vale. She'd known who he was the second he walked into the restaurant. Everyone knew Adrian Vale, billionaire tech investor, venture capitalist, the man who'd built an empire from nothing and lost his wife to cancer when their son was barely 3 years old. He disappeared from the society pages after that, No parties, no galas, no public appearances unless business required them. Until Margot Ashford. Lena had served them twice before tonight. Both times she'd watched Margot treat Adrian like a trophy and everyone else like insects. She'd seen the way Adrian's face went blank whenever Margot touched him, the way he checked his phone every few minutes like he was looking for an escape. She'd also seen the briefcase. Her photographic memory was both a gift and a curse. She couldn't help but see patterns, remember details, analyze everything. When the maitre d' had accidentally nudged Adrian's case open while serving drinks, Lena's brain had automatically cataloged everything visible. Financial reports, merger documents, a leather folder labeled Ashford Prenuptial Agreement Confidential. She should have looked away, should have closed the case and walked away. But she'd seen the heading on page 47, Strafklauseln bei öffentlichem Skandal, penalty clauses for public scandal. And she'd seen how Margot treated people when she thought no one important was watching. So Lena had done something incredibly stupid. She'd marked the page and prayed Adrian would notice before he made a mistake that would cost him everything. She never expected him to notice during dinner, never expected Margot to self-destruct so spectacularly, and absolutely never expected Adrian Vale to offer her a job. Lena set the check on her tiny kitchen counter and stared at it. She should rip it up. This was crazy. She was a waitress with a doctorate she'd never finished and student loans that would follow her to the grave. She had no business looking at billion-dollar merger documents. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Lena Harper, this is Adrian Vale. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Vale Industries headquarters, 52nd and Park. Ask for me at the front desk. I meant what I said. I need your help. A second text followed immediately. Also, thank you for tonight. You didn't have to do what you did. I won't forget it. Lena sank onto her second-hand couch, the phone heavy in her hand. In the next room, she could hear her mother's oxygen machine humming. The medical bills were stacked on the counter beside the check. Her mother needed treatments they couldn't afford. Medications insurance wouldn't cover. Care that required money, Lena didn't have. She looked at the check again. $20,000. Then she looked at Adrian's text. I need your help. Lena closed her eyes. She thought about patterns and numbers and instincts that told her when something was wrong. About German contract law and merger agreements, and the feeling that had been nagging at her since the first time she'd overheard Adrian's lawyers discussing the deal. Something was wrong with that merger. She didn't know what yet, but her gut said it was there, buried in the language, hidden in the translation. And Adrian Vale had just asked her to find it. Lena opened her eyes and typed a response. I'll be there. 9 a.m. She sent the text before she could second-guess herself. 3 seconds later, her phone rang. Adrian's number. Hello? Miss Harper. His voice was tired, but something else too. Relieved, maybe. You'll come? I'll come. But Mr. Vale, Adrian, please. Adrian. The name felt strange on her tongue, too familiar, too intimate for a man she'd just met. I'm not qualified for whatever you think you need. I'm just someone who sees things other people miss. That's exactly what I need. Lena bit her lip. What if I can't help? Then you'll have tried, and I'll pay you for your time regardless. That's not fair, reasonable. Probably not. But I didn't build my company by ignoring my instincts. And my instincts say you're the smartest person who walked into that restaurant tonight, including me. Warmth flooded through Lena's chest. When was the last time someone had called her smart? Had seen her as anything other than the quiet waitress who never made trouble? Okay, she whispered. Okay. I'll look at your documents. I'll tell you what I see. But Adrian, yes? If I find something wrong, if it's bad, you have to promise you'll listen. Silence on the other end. Then, I promise. Lena nodded, even though he couldn't see her. Then I'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Tomorrow, Adrian agreed. Sleep well, Lena. He hung up before she could respond. Lena sat in her dark apartment, listening to her mother's breathing in the next room, staring at a check that would change her life and a phone number that might change everything else. Tomorrow, she thought. Tomorrow she would walk into Adrian Vale's world and either save his company or destroy her own credibility trying. But tonight? Tonight she was still just a waitress who'd gotten lucky. She just hoped her luck would hold. Outside her window, Manhattan glittered like broken stars. Somewhere out there, Adrian Vale was probably fighting with lawyers and PR teams and business partners who all wanted to know why he'd walked away from Margot Ashford. And somewhere out there, Margot herself was planning revenge. Lena could feel it. The same way she'd felt the wrongness in the merger documents, the danger in Margot's smile, the shift in the air right before everything exploded. This wasn't over, it was just beginning. Lena didn't sleep. She spent the night going through everything she could find online about Vale Industries and the German merger. By 4 a.m., her eyes burned and her coffee had gone cold, but the unease in her stomach had grown into something sharper. The merger partner was Reichmann Industrial Group, a century-old manufacturing conglomerate based in Stuttgart. On paper, it looked perfect. Reichmann had the European market presence Vale Industries needed. Adrian had the capital and American connections Reichmann wanted. A marriage made in corporate heaven. Except marriages that looked perfect on paper had a way of hiding poison in the fine print. Lena knew that better than anyone. At 8:30, she stood outside her mother's bedroom door, listening to the steady rhythm of the oxygen machine. Her mother had been asleep when Lena got home last night. Still asleep now. The visiting nurse wouldn't arrive until 10. Lena left a note on the kitchen table, checked that all the medications were properly labeled, and walked out into the gray November morning feeling like she was stepping off a cliff. The subway ride to Midtown took 40 minutes. Lena spent it reviewing German contract terminology in her head, trying to ignore the voice that kept whispering she was insane. She was a graduate school dropout who served eggs and refilled coffee for a living. What made her think she could walk into a billionaire's office and find problems his team of expensive lawyers had missed? But she'd seen that briefcase, seen the merger documents mixed in with the prenup, and something about the language structure had felt off. The same way Margot's smile had felt wrong, the same way you could sense a storm coming before the first drop of rain. Vale Industries' headquarters was a steel and glass tower that made her feel like an ant. Lena pushed through the revolving doors into a lobby that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. The receptionist looked up with the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Adrian Vale. He's expecting me." The smile became more genuine and more surprised. "Your name?" "Lena Harper." The receptionist typed something, waited, then her eyebrows shot up. "Oh, yes, Mr. Vale left instructions." She handed Lena a visitor badge. 52nd floor. His assistant will meet you at the elevator. Lena's hand shook as she clipped on the badge. This was real. This was actually happening. The elevator ride felt like flying. When the doors opened on the 52nd floor, a sharp-looking woman in her 50s was waiting. "Miss Harper, I'm Catherine, Mr. Vale's executive assistant." She gestured down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than medical school. "He's in a meeting but asked me to get you settled. Can I get you coffee, water?" "Water would be great." Catherine led her past glass-walled offices where people in expensive suits talked on phones and typed frantically. Everyone looked busy and important and like they belonged here. Lena felt like a fraud. They stopped at a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Catherine opened the door. "Wait here. He shouldn't be more than a few minutes." The room was empty except for a massive table and a single cardboard box sitting in the center. Lena approached it slowly. The box was labeled Reichmann Merger, Complete Documentation. Her heart rate kicked up. She opened the box and found herself staring at roughly 300 pages of contracts, addendums, schedules, and exhibits. Half in English, half in German, all dense with legal terminology that would take days to properly review. Adrian thought she could do this in one morning. The door opened behind her. Lena spun around to find Adrian walking in, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care what the board thinks, Richard. The engagement is over. Handle it." He ended the call without waiting for a response and looked at Lena. "You came. You asked me to." Something in his expression relaxed. He looked tired, more tired than last night, if that was possible. His suit was immaculate, but his tie was slightly loosened, his hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. "Did you sleep?" Lena asked before she could stop herself. Adrian smiled faintly. "Did you?" "No." "Then we're even." He moved to the table, gesturing at the box. "That's everything. Contracts, financial schedules, environmental assessments, employment agreements. My legal team has been through it twice. They say it's clean, but you don't believe them. I don't know what I believe. That's why you're here. Adrian pulled out a chair. Sit, please. Lena sat. Adrian took the chair across from her, close enough that she could see the faint shadows under his eyes. Before we start, he said quietly, I need to ask you something. Okay. Last night at the restaurant, the briefcase. You said you read German, so you understood what the prenup was. Yes. How long did you look at it? Lena swallowed. Maybe 10 seconds, while I was closing the case. And in 10 seconds, you read enough to understand there was a scandal clause and decided I should know about it? I remember things. Once I see them. It's just how my brain works. Adrian studied her face like he was trying to solve an equation. What else do you remember? From the briefcase? From anywhere? Everything. Heat crept up Lena's neck. That's not a useful question. Humor me. She took a breath. The first time you came into the restaurant was 3 weeks ago, October 23rd. You ordered the duck confit. Margot had the sea bass, but sent it back because she said it was overcooked. It wasn't. You drank 2 glasses of Bordeaux. She had champagne. You left a 30% tip even though she was rude to the sommelier. Adrian's eyes widened slightly. The second time was November 2nd, Lena continued, unable to stop now. You ordered the same thing. So did she. You took 3 phone calls during dinner. She complained about all of them. You apologized, but you didn't mean it. I could tell because you used the same words each time. I'm sorry. It's just work. Like a script. You remember all of that. I remember everything. Conversations, documents, patterns. It's not as useful as it sounds. Why not? Because most people don't like being seen that clearly. Lena met his eyes. It makes them uncomfortable. Adrian leaned back in his chair. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. It will eventually. Why do you say that? Because everyone leaves, Lena thought. Everyone who gets close enough to see how strange you are, how different you are, how you don't fit anywhere no matter how hard you try. Because it always does, she said instead. Silence filled the conference room. Outside the windows, Manhattan spread out like a game board. Inside, Adrian watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. The merger documents, he said finally. What do you need from me? Time, quiet, and if I have questions about context or intent, someone who can answer them. I can do that. How long do you think? I don't know. Could be an hour. Could be all day. Adrian pulled out his phone and typed quickly. I'm clearing my calendar. Take as long as you need. You can't just, yes, I can. This is important. He stood up. I'll be in my office, right next door. If you need anything, just knock. Lena stared at the box of documents. What if I don't find anything? Then my lawyers were right, and I'm paranoid. And if I do find something? Adrian's jaw tightened. Then we figure out what to do about it. He left before she could ask any more questions. The door clicked shut, and Lena was alone with 300 pages of contracts that could make or break a $3 billion deal. No pressure. She pulled the first document out of the box and started reading. 2 hours later, Lena's back ached and her vision was starting to blur, but she'd made it through the primary merger agreement and most of the financial schedules. Everything looked standard, clean, exactly what Adrian's lawyers had said, which only made the itch between her shoulder blades worse. She moved on to the environmental assessments, dense technical reports about Reichmann's manufacturing facilities in Germany, emissions data, waste management protocols, compliance certifications, all in German. Lena read slowly, her photographic memory cataloging every detail. The reports were thorough, maybe too thorough, like someone had been very careful to document everything properly. She was halfway through the 3rd environmental report when she saw it, a date that didn't match. Lena sat up straighter, her heart beginning to pound. She flipped back to the previous report, checking the certification date, then forward to the next one. The dates were sequential: January, February, March. All certified by the same environmental agency, Bundesumweltamt, the German Federal Environment Agency, except the March report used language that didn't exist in March. Lena pulled out her phone and searched for Bundesumweltamt Regulation Changes 2025. Her German was good enough to navigate the official website. She found what she was looking for in under 3 minutes. The German government had changed environmental reporting requirements in July. New terminology, new standards, new forms. The March report used the July language. Someone had backdated it. Lena's hands started shaking. She forced herself to slow down, to check and double-check. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe it was just a template error, or no. The more she looked, the clearer it became. 3 of the environmental reports had been created after July, but dated before the regulation change. The language was wrong. The terminology was wrong. The entire structure was wrong. Someone had falsified environmental compliance documents. And if those were fake, what else was hidden in the data they supposedly certified? Lena stood up so fast her chair rolled backward. She grabbed the reports and walked to Adrian's office, knocking once before pushing the door open. Adrian was on the phone, but he took one look at her face and said, "I'll call you back," before hanging up. "What is it?" "The environmental reports. They're fake." All the color drained from Adrian's face. "What?" Lena spread the documents across his desk. "Look at the dates. March 15th, April 3rd, May 20th. But the language they use, these specific terms," she pointed to the German text, "didn't exist until July when Germany updated their environmental regulations. Someone created these reports after July and backdated them." Adrian stared at the papers. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. The terminology is wrong for the dates listed. It's like someone writing about COVID-19 in a document supposedly from 2018. The words didn't exist yet." "Why would they backdate environmental reports?" "To hide something, to make it look like they were in compliance earlier than they actually were. Or," Lena's stomach dropped, "to hide that they were never in compliance at all." Adrian stood up, his face going hard. "If Reichmann has environmental violations we don't know about, you'd inherit the liability when the merger completes. Every fine, every cleanup cost, every lawsuit. How much are we talking about?" Lena pulled up the environmental data on her phone, doing quick calculations. German environmental fines can run tens of millions of euros per facility. Reichmann has 6 major manufacturing plants. If they're all non-compliant, we're looking at hundreds of millions in liability. Minimum, plus legal costs, plus the cost of actually bringing the facilities into compliance. Lena met his eyes. "This could destroy your company." Adrian walked to the window, his shoulders rigid. For a long moment he didn't say anything, just stared out at the city like it might have answers. "How did you see this?" he asked finally. "My lawyers reviewed those reports. Your lawyers probably don't read German. And even if they do, they wouldn't necessarily know about a regulatory change unless they specifically work in German environmental law." "But you knew." "I read obsessively, including news about regulation changes in countries where I might want to work someday." Lena shrugged awkwardly. "It's a weird habit." Adrian turned around. "It just saved me from making a $3 billion mistake." The weight of that statement settled over the room like snow. "What do we do now?" Lena asked quietly. "We verify. I'll get a German environmental law specialist to review these reports. If you're right, I'm right. Then we confront Reichmann. And if they lied about this, we walk away from the entire deal. Your board won't like that." "My board doesn't have to like it." Adrian's voice was cold. "I'm not building my company on fraud." He pulled out his phone and made 3 calls in rapid succession. German law firm, environmental consultant, his own head of legal. Within 10 minutes, he had experts mobilizing to verify what Lena had found. When he hung up, he looked at her with something like wonder. "Do you know what you just did?" "Found a problem?" "You saved my entire company in less than 3 hours." Adrian moved closer. "My lawyers had 6 weeks with these documents. You had 1 morning." Lena felt her face flush. I see patterns. It's extraordinary. You're extraordinary." The words hit her like a physical thing. When was the last time anyone had called her extraordinary? When was the last time anyone had seen her as anything other than invisible? "I should keep reading," she managed. "If they faked environmental reports, there might be other problems." "Absolutely. But first," Adrian walked to his desk and pulled out another checkbook. "I need to pay you for... You already paid me $20,000. For last night. This is different. This is consulting work that just saved me hundreds of millions. Name your price. Lena's mind went blank. I have no idea what that's worth. What do you need? The question was so simple, so direct, and Lena found herself answering honestly before she could think better of it. My mother has stage 4 lung cancer. She needs treatments insurance won't cover. Medications that cost $8,000 a month. A home care nurse. Equipment. Her voice cracked slightly. I need to keep her alive. That's what I need. Adrian didn't hesitate. Done. You don't even know how much. I don't care. Give me the information for her medical team and I'll handle it. All of it. Treatments, medications, nursing care, whatever she needs. Lena felt tears burning behind her eyes. Why would you do that? Because you just saved my company. Because you're brilliant and you've been wasting your talent serving tables because the world is unfair and broken. Because I can afford it and you can't. Adrian's voice softened. And because nobody should have to watch their mother die while they're trying to figure out how to pay for help. The tears spilled over before Lena could stop them. She turned away embarrassed, trying to pull herself together. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't usually... Don't apologize. Adrian handed her a box of tissues from his desk. Take your time. Lena wiped her eyes, feeling ridiculous and grateful and overwhelmed all at once. Thank you. I don't know how to... I can't... Then don't try. Just keep doing what you're doing. Look through the rest of those documents. Find anything else that doesn't belong. And when you're done, we'll talk about what comes next. What comes next? Adrian smiled slightly. That depends on whether you want a permanent job. Lena's breath caught. Doing what? Whatever you want. Corporate analysis, due diligence, legal review, consulting. I don't care about the title. I care about keeping you close enough that the next time someone tries to hide a problem in the fine print, you're there to catch it. I'm not qualified. You're more qualified than anyone I've ever met. You just don't have the right credentials yet. Adrian leaned against his desk. So we'll get you those credentials, night classes, executive education, whatever you need. And in the meantime, you work for me and you get paid what you're actually worth. Lena stared at him. You're serious? Completely. You're offering me a job based on one morning of work. I'm offering you a job based on 2 nights of demonstrating better judgment than everyone I currently employ. Adrian crossed his arms. Last night, you protected me from a disastrous marriage. This morning, you protected me from a disastrous merger. I'd be an idiot not to hire you. Your board will think you're crazy. My board can cope. He moved closer, his expression earnest. Lena, I know this is fast. I know it probably seems insane, but I didn't build this company by playing it safe. I built it by trusting my instincts, and my instincts say you're the best decision I could make right now. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to point out all the reasons this was a terrible idea. She had no corporate experience, no business degree, no network or connections or polish. But she did have a mother who needed medicine, and she did have a brain that saw patterns nobody else could see. And standing in front of her was a man offering her a chance she'd spent years dreaming about and never thought she'd get. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay? I'll do it, the job, whatever you need, Lena took a shaky breath. I'll try. Adrian's whole face changed. The exhaustion lifted. The tension in his shoulders eased. He looked almost happy. Thank you, he said quietly. You won't regret this. I might. Then I'll make sure you don't. He glanced at his watch. It's almost noon. Have you eaten? Lena's stomach chose that moment to growl loudly. She hadn't eaten since yesterday's shift ended. Adrian laughed. A real laugh, surprised and genuine. I'll take that as a no. Come on. We'll get food, and you can tell me what else you need to finish reviewing the merger documents. I can just... Lena. He met her eyes. You work for me now. Which means you eat lunch and take breaks and don't burn yourself out in the first 6 hours. Okay? She nodded, still feeling like this was all a dream she might wake up from. They ended up in Adrian's private office with sandwiches from a deli that probably charged $30 for turkey and cheese. Lena sat in a leather chair that cost more than her monthly rent and tried to act like this was normal. Tell me about your mother, Adrian said. So Lena did. She talked about diagnosis and treatments and the slow, terrible process of watching someone you love disappear piece by piece. She talked about medical bills and insurance battles, and the visiting nurses who were kind but overworked. Adrian listened without interrupting. When she finished, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Marcus, Adrian Vale, I need you to set up a full medical care package for... He looked at Lena. What's your mother's name? Sarah Harper. Sarah Harper, stage 4 lung cancer. I want the best oncology team in New York, in-home nursing, whatever equipment she needs, and I want it handled today. He paused. I don't care what it costs. Just make it happen. He hung up and met Lena's stunned expression. That's Marcus. He handles my personal investments and also apparently miracles when I need them. He'll have someone at your apartment this afternoon to assess what your mother needs. They'll coordinate with her current doctors and implement whatever treatment plan makes sense. Lena couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was hearing. You don't have to worry about money anymore, Adrian said gently. Not for her care, not for anything. That's done. So you can focus on the work. Deal? Deal, Lena whispered. They spent the next hour going through the rest of the merger documents. Lena found 2 more irregularities, both smaller than the environmental fraud but still concerning, missing signatures on subsidiary agreements, financial projections that didn't match the underlying data. By 3 o'clock, Adrian had canceled the merger. By 4 o'clock, his lawyers were drafting the termination notice. By 5 o'clock, his board was having an emergency meeting that Adrian refused to attend. They'll want explanations, Catherine said, poking her head into the conference room. The merger was supposed to close next week. Then I'll explain on Monday. Right now, I need to make sure we document everything properly so Reichmann can't sue us for backing out. Adrian looked at Lena. You'll need to write up your findings, full report, timeline, evidence, everything you saw. I can do that. Good. Catherine will set you up with an office and a computer. Take your time, be thorough. He stood up, stretching. I need to go talk to my son. I promised him I'd be home for dinner tonight. Lena blinked. She'd almost forgotten Adrian had a son. How old is he? 7. His name's Max. Something soft crossed Adrian's face. He's the only reason I haven't completely lost my mind the last 4 years. Does he know about the breakup with Margot? Not yet, but he will. And he'll be relieved. Adrian grabbed his coat. She was terrible to him, polite in front of me, cold when she thought I wasn't paying attention. He's too smart not to notice. Lena thought about the little boy growing up without a mother, watching his father disappear into work, trying to navigate a world of nannies and private schools and women who wanted his father's money, but not him. Bring him by sometime, she said impulsively. If you want, I'd like to meet him. Adrian looked surprised, then pleased. I'd like that. He's good at reading people too. I think you two would get along. After Adrian left, Lena spent another 3 hours writing up her analysis of the merger documents. Catherine brought her coffee and a sandwich and told her not to work too late. Mr. Vale will feel guilty if you collapse from exhaustion on your first day, she said with a slight smile. Has he always been like this? Lena asked. The intensity? Worse since his wife died. Work is the only thing that makes sense to him anymore. Catherine hesitated. But I haven't seen him smile this much in years, so whatever you're doing, keep doing it. By the time Lena finished the report, it was almost 9 p.m. She emailed it to Adrian, packed up her things, and took the subway back to Queens feeling like she'd lived an entire lifetime in one day. Her apartment was transformed. There was a hospital bed in her mother's room now, professional medical equipment, a nurse sitting beside Sarah's bed, monitoring vitals and adjusting medication. Miss Harper? The nurse stood up. I'm Jennifer. Mr. Vale's office sent me. I'll be here overnight, and my colleague Diane will take the day shift. We've already coordinated with your mother's oncologist. She's resting comfortably. Lena walked to the bed, looking down at her mother's sleeping face. Sarah looked peaceful, more peaceful than she had in months. Thank you, Lena whispered. She went to her own room and collapsed on the bed, still wearing her clothes from the morning. Her phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. Got your report. It's perfect. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we deal with the fallout. Lena smiled and texted back. Thank you for everything. His response came immediately. Thank you for saving me from my own terrible decisions. Lena set the phone down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow there would be meetings and explanations and probably a lot of angry phone calls from Reichmann's lawyers. Tomorrow she'd have to figure out how to be the person Adrian seemed to think she was. But tonight, her mother had a nurse, had medication, had a chance, and Lena had a job, a real job, with a man who'd looked at her and seen someone worth investing in. She fell asleep with tears on her face and hope in her chest for the first time in years. 3 blocks away, in a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Adrian sat with his son at the kitchen table. Max was building something with Legos, a spaceship maybe, or a castle. It was hard to tell. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy." "Is Margot gone?" Adrian looked at his son's serious face. "Yeah, she's gone." "Good." Max added another piece to his structure. "She was mean." "I know. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." "It's okay. You were sad." Max looked up at him. "Are you still sad?" Adrian thought about Lena's dark eyes and quick mind and the way she'd seen through everything in seconds. Thought about how his company was safe because a waitress had noticed patterns his lawyers missed. "Less sad," he said honestly. "I met someone interesting today." "Like Margot interesting?" "No, different interesting. Smart interesting." "Good." Max went back to his Legos. "Smart is better than pretty." Adrian smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm 7. I know everything." "Right. My mistake." They sat in comfortable silence. Outside the windows, the city glowed with a million lights, and somewhere out in that city was a woman who'd walked into Adrian's life and changed everything without even trying. He pulled out his phone and looked at the last text she'd sent. "Thank you for everything." Adrian typed a response he didn't send. "I think you might have saved more than my company today." Instead, he deleted it and wrote something simpler. "Sleep well, Lena. See you tomorrow." Tomorrow they'd face the board, face Reichmann, face all the complications of walking away from a $3 billion deal days before closing. But tonight, Adrian had his son, had his company, had a future that felt slightly less empty than it had this morning. And that, he thought, was enough. The fallout started before Lena even made it to the office Monday morning. Her phone buzzed with a news alert while she was still on the subway. Vale Industries cancels major German merger. Shareholders demand answers. By the time she walked into the building, 3 more articles had appeared, each more speculative than the last. Insider trading, cold feet, personal vendetta against Reichmann's CEO. Nobody mentioned environmental fraud because Adrian's lawyers were still building the case. Catherine met Lena at the elevator with a grim expression and a cup of coffee. "The board meeting started 20 minutes ago. It's not going well." "Should I—" "Wait in your office. Mr. Vale will send for you when he needs you." Catherine handed her the coffee. "Fair warning, they're going to want your head on a platter." Lena's stomach dropped. "Why mine?" "Because you're the new variable. The unknown waitress who walked in and convinced their CEO to torpedo a deal they've been planning for 8 months. Catherine's expression softened slightly. "Don't take it personally. They'd hate anyone who disrupted their plans." Lena's new office was smaller than Adrian's, but still larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a desk that looked like it belonged in a museum, a computer with 3 monitors that she had no idea how to use. She sat down and tried not to think about the fact that somewhere upstairs, a room full of billionaires and investors was probably debating whether to fire her on her second day. The phone on her desk rang. She stared at it for 3 rings before figuring out how to answer. "Miss Harper? It's Catherine. Mr. Vale needs you in the boardroom, 54th floor. Now." Lena's hands went cold. "Okay, I'm coming." The walk to the elevator felt like walking to an execution. She rode up 2 floors, trying to remember how to breathe. When the doors opened, Catherine was waiting. "Straight down the hall, last door on the right, just—" Catherine hesitated. "Be yourself. That's what he needs right now." The boardroom was twice the size of the conference room where Lena had reviewed the merger documents. 20 people sat around a table that could have seated 40. All of them looked angry. Adrian stood at the head of the table, his expression carved from ice. When Lena walked in, every head turned toward her. "This is Lena Harper," Adrian said, "the analyst who identified the problems with the Reichmann merger." A man in his 60s with silver hair and a face like a bulldog leaned forward. You mean the waitress who convinced you to walk away from $3 billion based on her interpretation of German environmental law? Lena felt the room's collective skepticism like a physical weight. I'm not a lawyer, she said quietly, but I do read German, and the environmental reports submitted by Reichmann contain language that didn't exist on the dates those reports were supposedly certified. That's a very serious accusation, a woman with sharp eyes said from the middle of the table. Do you have proof? Yes. Lena looked at Adrian, who nodded. She moved to the screen at the front of the room, her hands shaking slightly as she pulled up her report. These are the 3 environmental compliance reports dated March, April, and May of this year. They were supposedly certified by the Bundesumweltamt, the German Federal Environment Agency. She clicked to the next slide, highlighting specific German phrases. These terms, Nachhaltigkeitsrahmen, Emissionsobergrenze, Klimaneutralitätsziel, all refer to regulatory frameworks that didn't exist until July when Germany updated their environmental code. Using them in documents supposedly created in March is like, she searched for an analogy they'd understand, like referencing TikTok in a document from 2012. The words didn't exist yet. Silence. The silver-haired man frowned. How do we know you're not mistaken about when those terms came into use? Lena pulled up the official German government website, time-stamped and archived. Here's the announcement of the regulatory change, July 15th. And here, she switched screens, are the old forms that should have been used for March, April, and May certifications. Different terminology, different structure, different requirements entirely. So someone at Reichmann backdated the reports, a younger board member said slowly, or created false reports to hide compliance failures. Either way, if we'd completed this merger, Vale Industries would have inherited legal liability for whatever environmental violations those fake reports are covering up. How much liability? The bulldog asked. Lena looked at Adrian, who nodded again. German environmental fines can run 50 million euros or more per facility for serious violations. Reichmann has 6 major manufacturing plants. If all of them are non-compliant, we're looking at potential liability exceeding $300 million, plus legal costs, plus remediation. The room erupted. Half the board started talking at once. The other half pulled out phones and tablets, presumably fact-checking what Lena had just said. Even if she's right, the sharp-eyed woman said loudly over the noise, we could have negotiated, required Reichmann to fix the compliance issues before closing. We didn't have to walk away entirely. Yes, we did. Adrian's voice cut through the chaos. Because if they lied about environmental compliance, what else are they lying about? Financial data? Subsidiary agreements? Tax filings? You don't know they lied, the bulldog argued. This could be a clerical error, a translation mistake. It's not. Lena surprised herself by speaking up. Every eye swung back to her. I found 2 other irregularities in the merger documents. Financial projections that don't match the underlying revenue data. Missing signatures on 3 subsidiary transfer agreements. Individually, each problem could be explained away. Together, they form a pattern. A pattern of what? Someone asked. Fraud. Reichmann is hiding something. Maybe environmental violations. Maybe financial problems. Maybe both. But whatever they're hiding, it would have become our problem the second this merger closed. More silence. Then the woman with sharp eyes said, I want independent verification. German law firms, environmental consultants, full audit of everything Miss Harper found. Already in progress, Adrian said. We'll have preliminary results by Wednesday. And if she's wrong, then I'll personally apologize to Reichmann and discuss whether the deal can be salvaged. But if she's right, Adrian's expression hardened. Then we dodged a bullet that would have destroyed this company. The bulldog looked at Lena with something like grudging respect. Where did you study German environmental law? I didn't. I studied comparative linguistics at Columbia. German was one of my focus languages. You dropped out, someone said. Not a question. Heat flooded Lena's face. Yes. Family emergency. I never finished my doctorate. But you remember regulatory changes from 6 months ago in a foreign country. I read a lot. And I remember what I read. Convenient, the sharp-eyed woman muttered. It's not convenient, Lena said before she could stop herself. It's exhausting. Do you know what it's like to remember every conversation, every document, every mistake you've ever made? To walk around with all of that in your head all the time and have people assume you're making it up because it doesn't fit their idea of normal? The room went quiet. Adrienne was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. I'm not asking you to believe me because I'm special or qualified or anything else, Lena continued, her voice steadier now. I'm asking you to look at the evidence, check the dates, verify the language, bring in experts, but don't dismiss what I found just because I used to serve tables. The bulldog leaned back in his chair. You've got nerve, I'll give you that. She's got more than nerve, Adrienne said quietly. She saved this company, and whether you want to admit it or not, every single person in this room knows it. The vote to proceed with independent verification of Lena's findings was unanimous. The meeting ended with grudging agreement to wait for expert analysis before making any final decisions about the Reichmann deal. Lena escaped to the hallway feeling like she'd survived a car crash. Adrienne followed her out. You okay? I think I'm going to throw up. There's a bathroom right. I'm kidding, mostly. Lena leaned against the wall, her legs shaky. Do they always talk to people like that? Only when billions of dollars are at stake. Adrienne studied her face. You held your own, better than most people would have. I shouldn't have said that thing about remembering everything. Now they think I'm arrogant. They think you're competent. There's a difference. Adrienne's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and sighed. I have to deal with our PR team. Reichmann's lawyers are already threatening to sue for breach of contract. Can they do that? They can try. But if our verification confirms what you found, they won't have a leg to stand on. He looked at her. Go home. Get some rest. You've done enough for one day. It's barely noon, and you just faced down my entire board without backing down. That counts as a full day in my book. Adrienne's expression softened. Seriously, go check on your mother. We'll handle the rest. Lena wanted to argue, but exhaustion was starting to creep in around the edges. Okay, but call me if you need anything. I will. She made it as far as the elevator before her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Lena Harper? The voice was female, polished, cold. Yes? This is Margot Ashford. We need to talk. Lena's stomach clenched. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't care what you think. You destroyed my engagement and humiliated me in public. The least you can do is hear me out. I didn't destroy anything. You did that yourself. By defending myself against your little stunt with the briefcase? Margot's laugh was bitter. Please, Adrienne was looking for an excuse to call off the wedding. You just gave him one. Then maybe you should be talking to him instead of me. Oh, I tried. He won't take my calls, but you... Margot's voice sharpened. You're the new shiny thing, the brilliant analyst who saved his company. Let me guess. He's already offered you a job? Lena didn't answer. Of course he has. Adrienne has a type. Smart, broken, needs saving. His dead wife was the same way. Charity cases make him feel important. I'm hanging up now. Wait. Something in Margot's tone changed. I'm not calling to threaten you. I'm calling to warn you. Warn me about what? Adrian Vale is a good man, but he's also a dangerous man. He builds empires by crushing anyone who gets in his way. And when he's done using you, when you stop being useful or interesting or whatever it is that's caught his attention right now, he'll discard you just as quickly as he discarded me. That's not... How long have you known him? 3 days? I was with him for 6 months and I barely scratched the surface. He doesn't let anyone in. Not really. You think you're special because he's paying attention to you? You're not. You're just convenient. Lena's hand tightened on the phone. Why are you really calling? Silence. Then, because I want you to understand what you're getting into. Adrian doesn't need a partner. He needs someone who'll never question him, never challenge him, never expect anything he's not willing to give. And if you can't be that person, if you want something real from him, you're going to get hurt. Thanks for the concern. I'll manage. Will you? Margot's voice dropped. What happens when he finds out you're just a dropout with a photographic memory? When the novelty wears off and you're just another employee? Then I'll still have helped him avoid a fraudulent merger. That doesn't stop being true just because the novelty wears off. You're naive. Maybe. But at least I'm not bitter. Lena hung up before Margot could respond. Her hands were shaking again, but this time from anger instead of nerves. She shouldn't let Margot's words get to her. The woman was clearly hurt and lashing out. Everything she'd said was designed to plant doubt, to make Lena second-guess the one good thing that had happened to her in years. But as Lena rode the subway back to Queens, she couldn't quite shake the unease settling in her chest. Was Adrian using her? Was this all just temporary until someone better came along? And what happened when he realized she wasn't actually extraordinary, just a woman who'd gotten lucky with a photographic memory and a talent for patterns? Her apartment felt too quiet when she got home. Jennifer, the night nurse, had been replaced by Diane, a cheerful woman in her 40s who greeted Lena with a warm smile. "Your mother had a good morning," Diane said. "Ate some breakfast. We did some breathing exercises. She's sleeping now, but she asked about you earlier." Lena peeked into her mother's room. Sarah looked smaller than she had even a week ago, her frame fragile under the clean white blankets. But her breathing was steady and the pain lines around her eyes had eased. "Thank you," Lena whispered to Diane. She spent the afternoon doing paperwork for her mother's care, answering emails from Catherine about office logistics, and trying not to check her phone every 5 minutes to see if Adrian had texted. He didn't. By 6 p.m., Lena had convinced herself that Margot was right. Adrian had gotten what he needed from her. Now he was back to his real life with his real colleagues, and she was just... Her phone buzzed. "Can you come back to the office? We have a situation." Lena's heart rate spiked. She texted back, "What kind of situation?" "The kind that requires you specifically. I'll send a car." 20 minutes later, Lena was in the back of a town car, heading back to Manhattan. She'd changed into the one professional outfit she owned, a black dress she'd bought at a thrift store for a graduate school interview that never happened. Catherine met her in the lobby looking stressed. "He's in his office, and before you go up, the German consultants called. You were right. About everything." Relief and dread warred in Lena's chest. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that Reichmann's stock dropped 18% in the last hour. News leaked about potential environmental violations. Their CEO is scrambling." Catherine pressed the elevator button. "Adrian needs you to help draft a statement, something technical enough to be credible, but vague enough not to expose us to liability." Lena nodded numbly and rode up to the 52nd floor. Adrian's office door was open. He was on the phone, pacing, his tie loosened and his hair disheveled. When he saw Lena, his expression shifted. Relief, maybe, or something close to it. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone and hung up. "You came. You said you needed me." "I do. Sit, please." Adrian gestured to the chair across from his desk. "The consultants confirmed everything you found. The environmental reports were falsified. Reichmann has been operating 6 facilities in violation of German environmental codes for at least 3 years. The potential fines and remediation costs are..." He rubbed his face. "They're catastrophic." "How catastrophic?" $400 million. Minimum. Lena felt the air leave her lungs. "If you'd completed the merger, we would have been legally responsible for all of it." Adrian met her eyes. "You saved this company, not figuratively, literally. If we'd signed that deal, Vale Industries would have been destroyed." "What happens now?" "Now we issue a statement explaining why we withdrew from the merger without exposing ourselves to a lawsuit from Reichmann for defamation or breach of contract. We need to say enough to protect our reputation, but not so much that we give them ammunition." Lena thought for a moment. "You say the merger was withdrawn after comprehensive due diligence revealed material discrepancies in environmental compliance documentation that posed unacceptable liability risk to Vale Industries and its shareholders. Nothing specific. Nothing accusatory. Just facts." Adrian stared at her. "That's perfect. It's vague enough to be defensible and specific enough to make clear this wasn't cold feet or bad faith. Can you write it up? Full statement. Something I can give to our PR team tonight." "Yes, but Adrian..." "What?" Lena hesitated. "Margot called me today." Adrian's whole body went rigid. "What did she say? That you have a type. Smart, broken, needs saving, that you're using me, and when you're done, I'll be discarded like she was." Silence filled the office. Adrian turned away, walking to the window. "Is she right?" Lena asked quietly. "About what?" "About me being a charity case. About this all being temporary." Adrian turned back around. His face was difficult to read, anger, maybe, or hurt. Do you believe her? I don't know what to believe. 3 days ago, I was serving tables. Now I'm drafting corporate statements and sitting in your office at 7 p.m. like I belong here. It doesn't make sense. Why does it have to make sense? Because people don't just... Lena struggled for words. People like you don't just hand people like me entire careers because we got lucky once. Twice? You got lucky twice. Fine. Twice. But that doesn't explain why you're... She gestured helplessly. Why you're investing so much in someone you barely know. Adrian moved closer. You want the truth? Yes. I'm not investing in you because you're a charity case, or because I have a savior complex, or whatever else Margot said. I'm investing in you because in 3 days you've demonstrated better judgment than anyone I've worked with in 3 years. Because you see things other people miss. Because you're brilliant and honest, and you don't care about impressing me, you care about being right. His voice softened. And because when I look at you, I don't see someone who needs saving. I see someone who's been saving herself alone for so long she's forgotten what it's like to have help. Lena felt tears burning behind her eyes. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not, but I know enough to know I want to find out more. Adrian paused. Unless you don't want that. If this is too much, too fast, if you want to take the money for your mother's care and walk away, I'll understand. No hard feelings. You don't owe me anything. I don't want to walk away. The words came out before Lena could stop them. Adrian smiled, small and genuine. Good, because I wasn't lying when I said you're the best decision I've made in years. Even though I'm going to make your board hate you, they already hate me half the time. At least this way I'll have good company. Lena laughed despite herself. You're insane. Probably. But so are you, or you wouldn't be here. Adrian handed her his laptop. Draft the statement. Take your time. I'll order dinner. They spent the next 2 hours working side by side. Lena wrote while Adrian fielded phone calls from lawyers and investors and PR consultants. By 9 p.m., they had a statement that everyone agreed was solid. By 10 p.m., it had been released to the press. By 11 p.m., the story had exploded across financial news. Vail Industries dodges massive environmental fraud. Reichmann stock plummets. Merger canceled after analyst uncovers hidden violations. And buried in the third paragraph of every article, the discrepancies were identified by Lena Harper, a newly hired analyst at Vail Industries. Lena stared at her name in print and felt the world shift. You okay? Adrian asked. Everyone knows who I am now. Is that a problem? I don't know. Maybe? Lena looked at him. What if I can't do this? What if I got lucky with Reichmann and the next time you need me to find something, I miss it? Then we'll figure it out. That's what teams do. I've never been good at teams. Neither have I. Adrian's smile was wry. Guess we'll learn together. A knock on the door interrupted them. Catherine poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you, Mr. Vail. Says it's urgent. Who? Klaus Reichmann, the CEO of Reichmann Industrial. Every muscle in Adrian's body went tense. Tell him I'm not available. He says if you don't see him tonight, his lawyers will file suit tomorrow morning for breach of contract and defamation. Adrian and Lena exchanged looks. Let him in, Adrian said finally. But Catherine, stay close and have security on standby. Catherine nodded and disappeared. 30 seconds later, a man in his 60s with steel gray hair and cold blue eyes walked into the office. Klaus Reichmann looked exactly like the kind of man who'd built an industrial empire through ruthlessness and cunning. He nodded curtly at Adrian, then his gaze swung to Lena. So you're the one, he said in heavily accented English. The analyst who destroyed 6 months of negotiations. Lena forced herself to meet his eyes. I'm the analyst who identified fraud in your environmental compliance documents. Alleged fraud. Confirmed fraud. Your own government is investigating now. Klaus's expression didn't change. You cost my company $3 billion and 17% of our stock value in one afternoon. You cost yourself that when you falsified environmental reports. We did no such thing. Lena pulled up the documents on Adrian's computer, rotating the screen so Klaus could see. These reports are dated March through May. They use regulatory language that didn't exist until July. Either your environmental team is time traveling or someone backdated compliance certifications to hide violations. Klaus studied the screen. His face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes. This could be a translation error. It's not. I read German fluently. This is deliberate falsification. You're very confident for someone so young. I'm very confident because I'm right. Klaus looked at Adrian. How much did you pay her to sabotage this deal? Adrian's voice went cold. I didn't pay her to sabotage anything. I paid her to review documents my own legal team should have caught. And conveniently, she found problems that allowed you to walk away penalty-free. The problems were real. The German authorities confirmed it. Adrian stood up. You came here to threaten a lawsuit. Fine. File it. We'll see you in court. But I'd be careful about discovery, Klaus. Because once we start digging into Reichmann's environmental records, I have a feeling we're going to find a lot more than backdated reports. Klaus's jaw tightened. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Klaus turned back to Lena. Who are you really? Nobody comes from nothing and destroys a $3 billion deal in 3 days. I'm nobody, Lena said quietly. Just someone who reads documents carefully and remembers what I read. I don't believe you. I don't care. Klaus stared at her, then shook his head. You're going to regret this, both of you. Is that a threat? Adrian asked. It's a promise. I've built my company over 40 years. I'm not going to let it be destroyed by a waitress playing detective. Klaus headed for the door, then paused. You should be careful, Miss Harper. People who dig too deep sometimes find more than they're looking for. He left before either of them could respond. Lena realized she'd been holding her breath. He just threatened me. He just threatened both of us. Adrian was already on his phone. I'm calling security. You're not leaving this building without protection. That's non-negotiable. Klaus Reichmann is a dangerous man and he's desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. He won't actually... I'm not taking that risk. Adrian finished his call and turned to her. My head of security is arranging a car to take you home. Someone will be outside your building tonight. Tomorrow we'll discuss longer-term security measures. Lena wanted to argue that this was excessive, that Klaus was just posturing, that she didn't need armed guards. But the look in Klaus Reichmann's eyes had been very cold and very serious. Okay, she said instead. Adrian's expression softened. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have anticipated they'd retaliate. You didn't do anything wrong. I exposed you, put you in the line of fire. That's on me. I chose to help you. I knew there might be consequences. Not like this. They stood in his office, the city glittering outside the windows, the weight of what had just happened settling between them. Go home, Adrian said finally. Get some rest. We'll figure out the security situation tomorrow. Lena nodded and headed for the door. She was almost to the elevator when Adrian called after her. Lena? She turned. Thank you for not backing down. With Klaus? With my board? With any of this? You're welcome. The car that took her home was an unmarked SUV with a driver who looked like he'd been military. He walked her to her apartment door, checked the hallway, and told her someone would be stationed outside all night. Lena let herself in and found Diane watching television in the living room. Your mother's asleep, Diane said. Good day today. She was asking about you again? Lena went to her mother's room and sat beside the bed, watching Sarah breathe. The oxygen machine hummed. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Everything was peaceful. Nothing felt peaceful. 3 days ago, Lena had been invisible, nobody special, nobody worth noticing. Now her name was in financial newspapers. A German CEO had threatened her. Armed security was stationed outside her building. Her phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. Sleep well, see you tomorrow. We're in this together now. Lena stared at the message for a long time before responding. Together. I like the sound of that. She sent it and set the phone down, wondering what she'd gotten herself into and whether she'd have the strength to see it through. Outside her window, the city hummed with life. And somewhere out there, Klaus Reichmann was planning his next move. Lena closed her eyes and tried not to think about what that move might be. The scandal broke 3 days later, and it didn't come from Klaus Reichmann. It came from inside Vale Industries. Lena was at her desk reviewing acquisition documents for a smaller tech company when Catherine burst into her office, her face pale. "Have you seen the news?" "What news?" Catherine pulled up a website on her tablet. The headline made Lena's stomach drop. Vail Industries analyst accused of corporate espionage. Insider claims Harper manipulated merger data for personal gain. The article was worse. Anonymous sources within Vail Industries claimed Lena had falsified her findings about the Reichmann merger, that she'd altered documents, planted evidence, all to make herself look valuable to Adrian Vail while secretly working for a competitor who wanted the deal to fail. There were quotes from senior legal staff saying Lena had no credentials, no experience, no business reviewing billion-dollar contracts, implications that she'd seduced her way into Adrian's trust, suggestions that Adrian himself was compromised, thinking with something other than his brain. "This is insane," Lena whispered. "None of this is true." "I know, but it's everywhere. Financial Times picked it up. Bloomberg. The Wall Street Journal is running a piece in an hour." Catherine's hands were shaking. "Mr. Vail is in an emergency board meeting. They're demanding your immediate suspension pending investigation." The world tilted sideways. Suspension. They want you out of the building by noon. But I didn't do anything wrong. The German authorities confirmed everything I found. I know, but the board is panicking. The stock dropped 6% this morning on the news. Investors are calling. There's talk of lawsuits from shareholders claiming Vail Industries acted on fraudulent analysis. Lena stood up, her legs unsteady. "I need to talk to Adrian." "He's fighting for you, but Lena..." Catherine's expression was pained. "Some of these quotes are coming from people inside the company, people who've been here for years. They're saying you're a con artist who manipulated Mr. Vail while he was emotionally vulnerable after breaking up with Margot." The pieces clicked together in Lena's mind. Margot did this. "We don't know that." "Yes, we do. She called me, warned me, said I'd regret this." Lena grabbed her phone. "She's behind this. She has to be." Before Catherine could respond, the door opened. Adrian walked in, his face carved from granite. "Out," he told Catherine quietly. Catherine fled. Adrian closed the door and turned to Lena. "I need you to tell me the truth." "About what?" "About everything. The Reichmann documents. Your analysis. Did you fabricate anything, alter anything, exaggerate anything?" The question hit Lena like a slap. "You're asking me if I lied?" "I'm asking you to confirm you didn't, because right now my entire board thinks you did. My lawyers think you did. Half my executive team thinks you did. And I need to know for certain before I put my entire company on the line defending you." Lena felt something crack in her chest. "You don't believe me." "I believe you, but I need to hear you say it." "Why? So you have plausible deniability when you fire me?" "So I can go back into that boardroom and tell them with absolute certainty that you're being set up." Adrian's voice was hard. "But I can't do that if you won't answer the question." Lena met his eyes. "I didn't fabricate anything. I didn't alter anything. Every single thing I found was real. The backdated reports, the fake compliance certifications, all of it. You had 3 independent German firms verify my work. They confirmed everything." "I know." "Then why are you asking me this?" "Because someone very good at manipulation just planted enough doubt that my board wants you gone. And if I can't prove beyond any question that you're innocent, they're going to force me to cut you loose." "Then cut me loose." Lena's voice shook. "I'm not going to stand here and beg you to believe me when you clearly don't. That's not fair. None of this is fair. 3 days ago you told me I saved your company. Now you're asking if I'm a con artist. Which one is it, Adrian?" He flinched. "Both can be true. You saved my company, and someone's trying to destroy you for it. I'm trying to protect you." "By interrogating me?" "By making sure I have all the facts before I go to war with my own board." They stared at each other across the small office. Outside, Lena could hear phones ringing, people talking in urgent voices. The whole building felt like it was holding its breath. "What do you need from me?" Lena asked finally. "Access to everything, your computer, your files, your personal emails. Anything that could prove you didn't falsify data. You want to investigate me. I want to clear you. There's a difference." Lena thought about her laptop at home. The articles she'd saved about German environmental law. The notes she'd made while reviewing the Reichmann documents. All of it time-stamped and documented. Fine. Investigate me. Go through everything. But Adrian, what? When you don't find anything, when you prove I'm innocent, I want to know who did this. I want names. Adrian's expression was grim. So do I. The investigation took 6 hours. Adrian's head of IT pulled every email Lena had sent, every document she'd accessed, every search query she'd made. They time-stamped everything, cross-referenced it with the Reichmann files, checked for any evidence of tampering or alteration. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. By 6 p.m., even the most skeptical members of Adrian's legal team had to admit the evidence was clean. Lena's analysis was legitimate. Her findings were accurate. Her methods were sound, which meant someone had fabricated the entire espionage story. Adrian called Lena back into his office. She'd spent the afternoon in a conference room with 2 lawyers and an IT specialist watching them dissect her entire digital life. She felt stripped bare and furious. "It's clean," Adrian said without preamble. "Everything. You're cleared." "Great. So I get my job back?" "You never lost it. The board agreed to suspend the suspension pending investigation results. Now that we have those results, you're reinstated." "How generous of them," Adrian sighed. "Lena, I know you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm done." She stood up. "I came here because you said you needed help. I found problems your lawyers missed. I saved your company from a fraudulent merger. And the second someone questioned my credibility, you threw me to the wolves. I didn't throw you anywhere. I protected you by making sure we had irrefutable proof you were innocent. You protected yourself. There's a difference. That's not fair. You keep saying that, but fair would have been trusting me. Fair would have been telling your board to back off until we found out who was behind this. Fair would have been..." Lena's voice cracked. "Fair would have been believing me without making me prove I wasn't a liar." Adrian moved closer. "You're right." Lena blinked. "What?" "You're right. I should have trusted you, should have fought harder before asking you to defend yourself. I was scared and I made a mistake." His voice was quiet. "I'm sorry." The apology caught Lena off guard. She'd expected defensiveness, justification, not this. "Who planted the story?" she asked. "We're still trying to figure that out. The quotes came from an anonymous email sent to 3 financial journalists. Whoever wrote it knew enough internal details to sound credible." "Margot, maybe, probably, but we can't prove it yet." Adrian pulled out his phone and showed her an email. "This came an hour ago, from Marcus Henley." Lena read the name. "Your former head of legal, the one you fired after I found the Reichmann problems. He's offering to testify that I pressured him to ignore red flags in the merger documents. That you and I conspired to manufacture evidence so I could walk away from a deal I was already having cold feet about. That's insane. It's also exactly what my board was afraid of. If Marcus files a formal complaint, the SEC will have to investigate. Even if we're cleared eventually, the damage to Vail Industries' reputation could be catastrophic." Lena sank into a chair. "Why is he doing this?" "Because I fired him and humiliated him in front of the entire company. Because his reputation is destroyed and he wants someone to blame." Adrian sat down across from her. "And because someone probably paid him to do it. Margot. Or Klaus Reichmann. Or both working together." Adrian rubbed his face. "I made a lot of enemies very quickly by walking away from that merger. Now they're coming after both of us. So what do? We prove Marcus is lying. We find evidence linking him to whoever's behind this. And we destroy them before they destroy us." Lena looked at Adrian's exhausted face and felt something shift inside her. He'd made mistakes, questioned her when he should have trusted her, but he was also still here, still fighting, still refusing to throw her under the bus, even when it would have been easier. "Okay," she said. "Where do we start?" Adrian smiled slightly. "With Marcus's financials, if someone paid him to testify against us, there'll be a trail, deposits, transfers, something. That's going to take time we don't have. Then we need something else, something faster." Adrian leaned forward. "You said Margot called you. What exactly did she say?" Lena thought back to the conversation. "She warned me about you, said you collect broken people and discard them when you're done. That I was convenient and temporary." "That sounds like her." What else? She said, Lena paused, remembering. She said she barely scratched the surface with you in 6 months, that you don't let anyone in. Anything specific? Names, places, details? No, just vague threats and warnings. Lena frowned. Why? Because Margot loves to talk. And when she talks, she reveals more than she realizes. If she called you, she probably called other people too. And if she was coordinating with Marcus or Klaus, there might be communications we can trace. You want to subpoena her phone records? I want to give our lawyers ammunition to threaten her with subpoenas until she backs off. There's a difference. Adrian stood up. But first, I need to introduce you to someone. Who? My son. He's been asking about you. The subject change was so abrupt, Lena almost got whiplash. Your son? Max. He overheard me talking to Catherine about the investigation this morning. He wanted to know if you were okay. Adrian's expression softened. He's good at reading people. I think he'd like you. Adrian, I'm not really... I don't do well with kids. You don't have to do anything. Just meet him. 5 minutes. Then you can go home and rest. Lena wanted to argue. She was exhausted and emotionally wrung out, and the last thing she needed was to make small talk with a 7-year-old. But Adrian was looking at her with something like hope in his eyes. And after everything that had happened today, she couldn't bring herself to say no. 5 minutes, she agreed. They took Adrian's private car to his penthouse in Tribeca. The building was exactly what Lena expected. Marble lobby, doorman in uniform, elevator that probably cost more than most apartments. The penthouse itself was less expected. Instead of cold, minimalist design, it was warm and lived in, books everywhere. A Lego city sprawling across the living room floor, drawings stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. A small boy with dark hair and Adrian's gray eyes sat at the kitchen table working on homework. Max, Adrian said. Someone I want you to meet. Max looked up and studied Lena with unsettling intensity. You're the one who saved Dad's company. Yes, I guess I am. And now people are lying about you. Lena glanced at Adrian, who shrugged helplessly. Yes, Lena said. They are. Max nodded seriously. That happened to me at school. Tommy said I cheated on a spelling test because I got 100%. But I didn't cheat. I just studied really hard. What did you do? I showed the teacher my study notes. And then Tommy got in trouble for lying. Max tilted his head. Can you show people your notes to prove you didn't cheat? That's basically what we did today, Lena said, sitting down across from him. And now the people who matter know I was telling the truth. But some people still don't believe you. No, some people don't. That's dumb. Dad says you're the smartest person he's ever met. Why wouldn't people believe you? Lena felt warmth spread through her chest. Your dad said that? He says it all the time, to Catherine, to his lawyers, to everyone. Max went back to his homework. He said you speak 6 languages and remember everything you read, and you saved him from marrying someone mean. Max, Adrian said, embarrassed. What? You did say that. I heard you on the phone. Lena tried not to smile. What are you working on? Math, long division, it's boring. Can I see? Max pushed his worksheet toward her. Lena scanned the problems and immediately spotted 3 errors. You're making a mistake in the remainder, she said, pointing. See here? When you divide 47 by 6, you get 7 remainder 5, but you wrote remainder 4. Max's eyes widened. How did you see that so fast? I'm good with patterns. Numbers are just patterns. Can you help me? Dad's terrible at math. I am not terrible at math, Adrian protested. You are, though, Max said seriously. Remember when you tried to help me with fractions and you got confused and called Catherine? Adrian looked at Lena. That was 1 time. It was 3 times, Max corrected. Lena laughed, the first real laugh she'd had all day. Okay, I'll help, but only if your dad makes dinner. Deal, Adrian said, looking relieved. The 5 minutes turned into an hour. Lena helped Max finish his math homework while Adrian made pasta that was slightly overcooked but edible. They ate at the kitchen table while Max told elaborate stories about his school friends and his Lego projects and his teacher who talked too fast. It was normal. Weirdly, wonderfully normal. Like Lena had stepped into someone else's life. Someone who had family dinners and homework help, and a kid who asked 1,000 questions.
After dinner, Max showed Lena his Lego city. It was impressive. A detailed recreation of Manhattan, complete with tiny buildings and cars and people. "This is Vale Industries," Max said, pointing to a tall gray tower. "And this is our apartment, and this is where you work now. You made an office for me? Dad said you needed one, so I built it." Max showed her a small building with blue windows. "Do you like it?" Lena felt tears prick her eyes. "I love it." "Good. Because you're part of the city now. You can't leave." The simple statement hit Lena harder than it should have. This child she'd just met had already built her into his world, had accepted her presence like it was inevitable. "I'm not planning to leave," she said quietly. "Good," Max said again. Then he yawned hugely. "Bedtime," Adrian announced. "Go brush your teeth." Max groaned but obeyed, hugging Lena briefly before running to his bathroom. Adrian and Lena stood in the living room, the Lego city between them. "He likes you," Adrian said. "I like him too. He's great. He doesn't warm up to people usually. Since his mother died, he's been cautious. But with you," Adrian shook his head. "He built you into his city. That's how he processes things. If you're in the city, you're permanent." "Adrian, social. I know today was terrible. I know I handled it badly. But this," he gestured around the apartment. "This is what I meant when I said we're in this together. Not just the company, not just the work, all of it." Lena didn't know what to say. She was still angry about the interrogation, still hurt that Adrian had questioned her, but standing in his apartment, looking at the life he'd built with his son, she understood the fear behind his actions. He'd lost his wife, nearly lost his company, was terrified of losing anything else he cared about, including apparently her. "I should go," she said. "It's late, and you have Max Stay." The word came out rough. "Please, just for a while. I don't want you to leave thinking I don't trust you." "Do you trust me?" "Yes, completely. And I'm sorry I made you doubt that." Lena looked at Adrian's face, exhausted and honest and more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. "Okay," she said. "I'll stay." They sat on the couch while Adrian put Max to bed. Lena could hear them talking through the walls, Max's high voice asking questions, Adrian's low rumble answering, the sound of a life continuing despite everything. When Adrian came back, he looked slightly more relaxed. "He wants you to come to his school science fair next week," Adrian said. "Apparently you're good at explaining things, and his project is about patterns in nature." I don't know anything about science fairs." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." Adrian sat down beside her. "Lena, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "When Elena died, I shut down. Completely. I stopped feeling anything except anger and grief and exhaustion. I went through the motions with Max, with work, with life. But I wasn't really there." Lena listened without interrupting. "Meeting you was like someone turned the lights back on. Suddenly I was paying attention again, caring about things beyond just surviving, and that terrified me." Adrian looked at her. "Because the last time I let myself care about someone, I lost her. And I don't know if I could survive that again." "Adrian, I'm not saying this to make excuses. I'm saying it so you understand why I reacted the way I did today. When my board questioned you, when there was even a possibility you weren't who I thought you were." His voice cracked slightly. "I panicked, and I handled it badly. And I'm sorry." Lena reached for his hand without thinking. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly. "But Adrian, you can't protect yourself from loss by keeping everyone at arm's length. That's not living. That's just existing." "I know." "And you can't protect me by interrogating me every time someone questions my credibility. I need you to trust me, even when it's scary." "I do trust you." "Then prove it. Next time someone comes after me, defend me first and ask questions later." Adrian pulled her closer. "Deal." They sat in silence for a while, the city lights glowing through the windows. Lena thought about everything that had happened in the past week. The restaurant, the merger, the investigation, this moment on Adrian's couch with his son asleep down the hall and her hand in his. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You should have walked away when I warned you. Now you'll learn the hard way what happens to people who cross me. Lena's blood went cold. She showed Adrian the message. His face went hard. That's Margot's number. I recognize it. She's threatening me. She's incriminating herself. Adrian grabbed his phone and forwarded the message to his lawyers. Threatening a corporate witness during an investigation is a crime. We can use this. Use it how? To prove she's behind the false accusations. To connect her to Marcus Henley. Adrian stopped. Wait. What? He pulled up something on his phone. Call records from Vail Industries. His fingers flew across the screen, searching. Marcus called someone 17 times in the past week. Private number. But if we cross-reference the timing with when the false story broke, Adrian's eyes widened. He called this number 6 times the day before the article appeared, 3 times the day it published. Can you trace the number? I can try. Adrian made a call. It's me. I need an urgent trace on a phone number. Yes, tonight. I don't care what it costs. He rattled off the number and hung up. How long? Lena asked. An hour, maybe less if we're lucky. They didn't have to wait that long. 20 minutes later, Adrian's phone rang. Vail? He listened, his expression darkening. You're sure? Positive? Okay. Send me everything. He hung up and looked at Lena. The number belongs to a law office in Connecticut, Margot's father's firm. Lena felt pieces clicking together. She used her family's lawyers to coordinate with Marcus, and probably to funnel payment to him for testifying against us. If we can prove money moved from that firm to Marcus, we can prove conspiracy. Adrian was already calling his lawyers back. I need subpoenas. Phone records for Margot Ashford and Marcus Henley. Financial records for Ashford and Associates law firm. Everything. And I need it yesterday. The legal machinery started moving. By midnight, Adrian's team had filed emergency motions requesting court orders to access the relevant records. By 2 a.m., they'd convinced a judge that there was sufficient evidence of conspiracy to warrant immediate investigation. By dawn, they had proof. Marcus Henley had received $200,000 from Ashford and Associates 3 days before he approached reporters with his false testimony. The payment was disguised as a legal consulting fee, but the timing was damning. And the phone record showed Marcus had been in constant contact with Margot's father's office throughout the entire period when the false accusations were being planted. We've got them, Adrian said, his voice rough with exhaustion. Both of them. Lena had been dozing on his couch, wrapped in a blanket Adrian had brought her. She sat up groggily. What happens now? Now we present this to the SEC and the DA's office. Conspiracy to commit fraud, witness tampering, possibly extortion. Adrian's smile was cold. Margot wanted to destroy us. Instead, she destroyed herself. And Marcus? He'll be lucky if he only loses his law license. If the DA decides to prosecute criminally, and I'm going to make sure they do, he's looking at serious prison time. Lena should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, she just felt tired. I want to go home, she said quietly. Adrian nodded. I'll have my driver take you. And Lena, yes? Thank you for not giving up, for staying, for everything. Lena stood and moved toward the door. Then she stopped and turned back. Adrian? Your son was right. You are terrible at math. He laughed, surprised and genuine. Noted. But you're good at other things, like making space for broken people who don't fit anywhere else. You're not broken. Neither are you, but we're both pretty banged up. Lena smiled slightly. Good thing we found each other. She left before he could respond, riding the elevator down to the waiting car with dawn breaking over Manhattan. Her phone buzzed one more time. Adrian, you're not temporary, and you're definitely not convenient. Sleep well, Lena. She read the message 3 times before responding. You too. See you Monday. Because despite everything, the investigation, the threats, the conspiracy, she was going back. Going to keep fighting, going to keep proving everyone wrong who thought a waitress couldn't save $1 billion company. And maybe, just maybe, she was going to keep figuring out what it meant to be part of Adrian Vail's carefully constructed Lego city. The one where broken pieces fit together and made something stronger than the sum of their parts. Monday morning arrived with subpoenas, federal investigators, and Margot Ashford in handcuffs on the front page of every financial newspaper in the country.
Lena saw the photos while riding the subway to work, Margot being escorted from her Upper East Side apartment by FBI agents, her face twisted in fury and disbelief. The headlines were brutal. Socialite charged with conspiracy and fraud. Ashford family law firm under investigation. Former Vale fiancé faces federal charges. Marcus Henley had been arrested at 6 a.m. By 8, he'd already started cooperating with prosecutors, providing detailed testimony about how Margot had approached him with a plan to destroy both Adrian and Lena's credibility. By 9, Margot's father had resigned from his law firm to avoid disbarment. By 10, Klaus Reichmann's company had lost another 23% of its stock value as German authorities raided 3 of his manufacturing facilities. The whole house of cards was collapsing, and Lena had barely finished her first cup of coffee. She walked into Vale Industries expecting chaos. Instead, she found Catherine waiting at her office door with flowers. "From the board," Catherine said, setting down a massive arrangement of white roses. "With their apologies and gratitude for your service to the company." Lena stared at the flowers. "They sent me flowers. And a bonus. Check your email." Lena pulled out her phone and nearly dropped it. The email from HR detailed a performance bonus of $500,000, effective immediately, along with a formal promotion to Senior Vice President of Corporate Analysis. "This is insane," Lena whispered. "This is them covering their asses," Catherine corrected. "Half the board wanted to throw you under the bus last week. Now you're a hero, and they're terrified you'll sue them for wrongful suspension." "Should I?" "That's between you and your lawyers, but if you do, I'll testify." Catherine's smile was sharp. "I've got emails from 3 board members calling you a fraud the same day Adrian was proving you were right." Before Lena could respond, her office phone rang. Catherine answered it, listened, and then covered the mouthpiece. "It's the Wall Street Journal. They want an interview about how you uncovered the Reichmann fraud." "Tell them no." "You sure? This could be good publicity." "I don't want publicity. I want to do my job without people trying to destroy my life every other week." Catherine relayed the message and hung up. "They're persistent. You'll probably get more calls. Then you'll keep saying no." "Yes, ma'am." Catherine headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth. I'm glad you're still here. This place needs more people who give a damn about truth instead of just money." She left before Lena could figure out how to respond. Lena sat down at her desk and tried to process the past 10 days. She'd gone from invisible waitress to corporate analyst to accused criminal to decorated executive. Her mother had gone from dying without proper care to receiving the best treatment money could buy. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, she'd accidentally become part of Adrian Vale's life in a way that felt permanent and terrifying. Her phone buzzed. "Adrian." "My office, when you have a minute." Lena grabbed her coffee and headed down the hall. Adrian's door was open. He was standing at his window looking out at the city, his shoulders tight. "You wanted to see me?" He turned around and Lena saw the exhaustion on his face. "Margot's lawyers called. They want to negotiate a plea deal." "Already?" "She's facing 10 years minimum if this goes to trial. Conspiracy, fraud, witness tampering. Her father's firm is already throwing her under the bus to save themselves." Adrian moved to his desk and sat down heavily. "Her lawyers think if she provides testimony about Klaus Reichmann's involvement, apparently he funded the whole operation, she might get the sentence reduced to 3 years. Will you let her?" "That's up to the prosecutors, not me, but I told them I won't oppose it if she gives them everything." Adrian rubbed his face. "I don't want revenge, Lena. I just want this over." Lena sat down across from him. "Are you okay?" "I don't know. I should be relieved. We won. The company's safe. You're vindicated. Margot and Marcus are facing justice. Everything worked out." But I keep thinking about how close we came to losing everything. If you hadn't caught those backdated reports, if I'd signed that merger, if you'd walked away when things got hard." He met her eyes. "We were one decision away from disaster. That's true for everyone, every day. We just don't usually see it so clearly." Adrian smiled faintly. "When did you get so philosophical?" "Around the time federal agents started arresting people who wanted me destroyed." Lena set down her coffee. "What happens now with the company?" "We rebuild, find better lawyers, implement stronger due diligence protocols, make sure nothing like this ever happens again." He paused.
And we give you the resources you need to build your own team. My own team? You can't be the only person in this company who reads documents this carefully. We need analysts who think like you do, people who question everything and don't take anything at face value. Adrian leaned forward. I want you to build that team. Hire whoever you need. Set your own budget. Create the kind of department that would have caught the Reichman fraud before I ever saw it. Lena felt panic rising. I don't know how to manage a team. Neither did I when I started this company. You'll figure it out. His expression softened. I trust you, Lena. Completely. And I need you to trust yourself the same way. That's a lot harder than it sounds. I know, but you're not alone in this. Adrian stood up and moved around the desk. You've got me. You've got Catherine. You've got a board that's terrified of you, which is excellent leverage. And you've got Max, who's already planning what color your new office should be. Lena laughed despite herself. He's redecorating my office? He has opinions about interior design. Very strong opinions. Apparently, blue is calming, and you need calming after the week you've had. He's not wrong. They stood there in Adrian's office, the city sprawling below them, and Lena felt something settle in her chest. This was real. This job, this life, this strange family she'd stumbled into, all of it was real. I have a condition, she said suddenly. For taking the promotion? For staying. Period. Adrian's expression grew serious. Okay, what is it? No more interrogations. No more making me prove I'm innocent when someone questions me. If you trust me, you trust me. Even when it's hard. Even when other people are screaming that I'm wrong. Lena held his gaze. I can handle the board doubting me. I can handle the press questioning me. But I can't handle you not believing me. Not again. Deal. Adrian didn't hesitate. I won't make that mistake twice. And one more thing. Name it. I want to go back to school, finish my doctorate. Not because I need the credential for this job, but because I started something and I want to finish it. Done. We'll work around your class schedule. And Lena, yes? Thank you for giving me another chance. I didn't deserve it, but I'm grateful you did. Lena thought about all the chances she'd been given in the past 2 weeks. Chances she hadn't earned or expected. Chances that had changed everything. We all need second chances sometimes, she said quietly. The trick is not wasting them. The next few weeks blurred together in a haze of interviews, hiring decisions, and building something from nothing. Lena found 3 analysts who thought like she did, people who'd been overlooked or dismissed because they didn't fit the corporate mold, a former linguistics professor who'd left academia after a nervous breakdown, a retired FBI forensic accountant who was bored in retirement, a 24-year-old prodigy who dropped out of law school because she was too smart for the curriculum. They were weird and brilliant and didn't play well with others. They were perfect. Lena's mother improved slowly. The new treatments weren't a cure, but they bought time, quality time, time for conversations and memories and moments that mattered. You look different, Sarah said one afternoon when Lena stopped by during lunch. Happier. I am happier. Is it the job? Or the man who gave you the job? Lena felt her face heat. Both, maybe. I don't know. Sarah smiled, a real smile, the kind Lena hadn't seen in months. He's good to you? He's complicated and broken. And sometimes he makes terrible decisions. Lena thought about Adrian questioning her, then apologizing, about Max building her into his Lego city, about late nights at the office that turned into early mornings, and conversations that mattered. But yes, he's good to me. Then hold on to that. Good men who treat you well are rarer than you'd think. I'm trying. Try harder. You deserve happiness, Lena. You've spent so long taking care of me, taking care of everyone else. It's okay to let someone take care of you too. Lena kissed her mother's forehead and went back to work with those words echoing in her head. Max's science fair was on a Thursday. Lena had promised to help him set up his project, a display about Fibonacci sequences in nature. She'd spent 2 evenings teaching him about the mathematical patterns in pine cones and flower petals and nautilus shells. She arrived at the school early, carrying the poster board they'd designed together. Max was already there, bouncing with nervous energy. Do you think people will like it? He asked for the 10th time. They're going to love it. You worked hard and it shows. What if I forget what to say? Then you look at the poster and remember, all the information is right there.
Max nodded, still anxious. Then he spotted something over Lena's shoulder, and his whole face lit up. Dad! Lena turned to find Adrian walking toward them in jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. You came, Max said, throwing himself at Adrian.
Of course I came. Wouldn't miss it. Adrian hugged his son, then looked at Lena over Max's head. Thanks for helping him. He's been talking about this project non-stop. He did all the work. I just pointed him in the right direction. They set up the display together, Lena arranging the visual elements while Adrian helped Max practice his presentation. Other parents filtered in with their kids. Some recognized Adrian and whispered. A few recognized Lena from the news coverage and stared.
Lena ignored them all and focused on Max, who was starting to relax as he practiced explaining Fibonacci spirals. When the fair officially started, judges came around to review each project. Max delivered his presentation perfectly, his nervousness disappearing as he talked about patterns and mathematics and nature. The judge smiled and made notes and moved on to the next display. I did it, Max breathed. You did great, Lena said.
We make a good team. Max looked between Lena and Adrian. The three of us. We should do more projects together. Adrian caught Lena's eye. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or possibility. Yeah, Adrian said quietly. We should. They stayed until the winners were announced. Max didn't win, but he got an honorable mention for mathematical accuracy. He was thrilled. Walking out of the school together felt natural, like something they'd done 100 times before instead of just once. Adrian's hand found Lena's for a moment. Just a brief touch, easily missed, but it sent warmth through her entire body. Dinner? Adrian asked. There's a Thai place Max loves. If you're free. Lena thought about her empty apartment, the paperwork waiting on her desk, all the reasons she should say no and maintain professional boundaries. I'm free, she said instead. Dinner turned into 3 hours of conversation and laughter. Max told elaborate stories about his classmates. Adrian complained good-naturedly about his terrible cooking skills. Lena found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years. This was what normal felt like. Not perfect, not without complications, but good, real, worth fighting for. When Adrian dropped her at her apartment later, Max was already asleep in the back seat. Thank you, Adrian said. For tonight. For everything.
You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. You changed my life, Lena. Both our lives. He glanced at Max's sleeping form. He talks about you constantly. Asks when you're coming over. Builds you into every Lego project. He's a good kid. He is, and you're good for him. For both of us. Adrian paused. I know we've been dancing around this for weeks. The thing between us that's more than just professional. Lena's heart rate kicked up. Adrian,
I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know that whatever this is, I'm not running from it anymore. I'm done pretending I don't care about you beyond your analytical skills. That's very romantic, Lena said, trying to lighten the moment. Adrian smiled. I'm out of practice with romance. Give me time to get better at it. How much time? However long you need. I'm patient. Lena looked at this man who'd seen her when she was invisible, who'd trusted her when everyone else called her a fraud, who'd built space in his carefully controlled life for someone as messy and complicated as her. I don't need time, she said. I just need you to be sure, because I can't be another person you let in and then push away when things get hard. I'm sure, completely sure. You're not temporary, Lena. Adrian searched for words. You're the first thing that's felt permanent since Elena died. And that terrifies me, but I'm not running from it. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. Even when I make mistakes? Especially then. Someone needs to keep you honest. Adrian laughed quietly. Fair enough. He kissed her goodnight, brief and gentle and full of promise. Then he drove away with his sleeping son, leaving Lena standing on the sidewalk feeling like she'd just stepped off another cliff. But this time, she wasn't falling alone. 3 months later, Margot Ashford pleaded guilty to conspiracy and fraud in exchange for a reduced sentence of 4 years. Her testimony helped convict Klaus Reichmann, who was facing extradition to Germany on environmental fraud charges that could put him away for a decade. Marcus Henley lost his law license and was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Vail Industries' stock hit an all-time high, And Lena Harper became one of the youngest senior vice presidents in the company's history. She finished her doctorate that spring, a dissertation on pattern recognition in multilingual legal documents that her advisors called groundbreaking. Adrian and Max attended her defense, sitting in the back row and grinning like idiots while she presented her research. Her mother made it to the graduation ceremony, weak but smiling, watching her daughter accept a degree she'd thought she'd never finish.
"I'm proud of you," Sarah whispered afterward. "I couldn't have done it without help." "That's the point, sweetheart. You don't have to do everything alone anymore." Sarah Harper died peacefully 6 weeks later, surrounded by nurses who'd become friends and a daughter who'd been able to give her the ending she deserved. Lena grieved hard and messy, the way people grieve when they lose the only family they've ever known. Adrian and Max gave her space when she needed it and showed up when she didn't want to be alone. They didn't try to fix her pain or rush her healing, they just stayed. On the first anniversary of the night, Lena had walked into Le Bernardin and changed everything. Adrian took her back to the restaurant. Same table, different company. "You know they fired the maitre d' who bumped your briefcase," Lena said, looking at the menu she could now read in French without effort. "I heard. He's working at a place in Brooklyn now. Makes more money." Adrian set down his menu. "I've been thinking about that night a lot lately." "Me too. If I hadn't brought that briefcase, if you hadn't closed it, if you hadn't seen the prenup, we'd both be in very different places right now," Lena finished. "Do you ever regret it? Any of it?" Lena thought about the investigation, the threats, the moments she'd wanted to quit, about her mother's death and the grief that still ambushed her at unexpected moments, about the pressure of managing a team and the imposter syndrome that whispered she didn't belong. But she also thought about Max teaching her to play video games, about Adrian's hand finding hers during late nights at the office, about building something that mattered with people who saw her for who she really was. "No," she said honestly, "I don't regret any of it." "Good, because I have something for you." Adrian pulled out a small box, not the ring box Lena half expected, but something else. Inside was a key. "What's this?" "Key to my apartment. If you want it, no pressure, but Max and we want you there. Officially. Not just visiting." Lena stared at the key. "You're asking me to move in?" "I'm asking you to stop pretending you don't already live there half the time. Your toothbrush is in the bathroom. Your books are all over my office. Max has been saving the room next to his for you since February." "Adrian, I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring this out. But I also know I don't want to wake up in a world where you're not part of my life. Part of our life." Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. "You saved me, Lena. Not just my company. Me. And I'm done pretending I can go back to existing without you." Lena felt tears burning behind her eyes. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. "Then let me rephrase. I love you. Max loves you. And we'd really like it if you'd come home with us permanently instead of just visiting. You love me. Completely. Terrifyingly. Probably more than is reasonable given we've only known each other a year." "That's not very romantic," Lena said, echoing their conversation from months ago. Adrian smiled. "I'm still working on it, but I'm getting better, right?" Lena looked at this brilliant, broken man who'd seen past her waitress uniform to the person underneath, who'd trusted her when nobody else would, who'd built a life that had space for someone like her, someone who didn't fit anywhere else. She took the key. "Okay," she said. "Okay? I'll move in, but I have conditions." "Name them." "Max gets to help me decorate my room. You admit that you're terrible at cooking and let me handle dinners, and you stop apologizing for having feelings." Adrian laughed, loud and genuine. "Deal." They finished dinner talking about logistics and furniture and what to do with Lena's apartment. Normal things, boring things, things that people who were building a life together talked about. Walking out of the restaurant that night, Lena thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Invisible. Exhausted. Convinced she'd missed her chance at anything good. That woman would never have believed what came next. But standing on the Manhattan sidewalk with Adrian's hand in hers and a key to his apartment in her pocket, Lena understood something her younger self hadn't. Sometimes the best things in life came from taking chances you weren't ready for. From trusting people even when it scared you. From letting yourself be seen even when everything in you wanted to stay hidden. She'd spent years believing she had to be perfect to deserve good things.
that she had to have all the credentials and all the answers and all the polish before anyone would take her seriously. But Adrian hadn't fallen in love with perfect. He'd fallen in love with real. And Lena was learning that real was enough. 6 months later, Lena stood in a lecture hall at Columbia University teaching a seminar on corporate fraud detection. In the front row sat Adrian and Max, watching her explain pattern recognition and linguistic analysis with quiet pride. After class, a young woman approached nervously. "Professor Harper, I just wanted to say your story inspired me. I'm a first-generation student, and I've been working 3 jobs to afford school. Sometimes I think about dropping out because it's too hard. But then I remember how you came back and finished, and I think maybe I can too." Lena looked at this young woman who reminded her of herself just a few years ago, exhausted, determined, trying to believe she deserved a seat at the table. "You can," Lena said firmly. "And you will. Because the world needs people like us, people who had to fight for everything, people who understand that credentials matter less than character, people who see what others miss because we've been invisible ourselves." The student's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." After she left, Adrian wrapped his arm around Lena's shoulders. "That was beautiful," he said quietly. "It was true. Both things can be true." Adrian kissed her temple. "Come on, Max wants ice cream and he's getting impatient." They walked out of the building together, this makeshift family built from broken pieces and second chances. Max was already planning their weekend, talking about the Lego project he wanted Lena's help with. Lena listened to him chatter and thought about trajectories, how one decision could change everything, how kindness from a stranger could save a life, how the moments that seemed small at the time turned out to be the ones that mattered most. She'd walked into a French restaurant a year and a half ago with no idea that closing a briefcase would lead here. To a family, to a career, to a life she'd stopped believing was possible. Sometimes rescue came from unexpected places. Sometimes the person serving you dinner was actually the person who'd save your entire world. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you got to save them right back. Lena Harper had learned something important in the chaos of the past 18 months, something she wished she could tell her younger self, the one who'd given up on dreams because they seemed too big. You didn't have to be perfect to deserve love. You didn't have to have everything figured out to be valuable. You didn't have to fit into someone else's idea of success to matter. You just had to show up, pay attention, trust your instincts, and be brave enough to take chances on people who saw you for who you really were. The rest would figure itself out. And walking through Manhattan with Adrian's hand in hers and Max's excited chatter filling the air, Lena finally understood what her mother had meant all those months ago. Hold on to the good things, the real things, the people who stayed when things got hard. Everything else was just noise. She was home.